Hello, hello. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you're all having a beautiful day. If you're new here, I'm Madison. I do Akashic Records, which is tapping into things like your soul purpose and past lives and soul contracts. I also do mediumship, connecting with past loved ones, and I am currently a Reiki master, but I'm also working on learning a new level of quantum healing that I'll actually talk a little bit about in this episode. So if you're new here, so happy you're here, and if you've been here before, welcome back. Today we are talking about what is a Stargate. And so if you've been following for a little while, you've noticed that my content has really changed from, I used to talk about concepts everybody knows about, like what is Reiki, how does it work, what is the swords in tarot mean, like general concepts. Now I'm moving towards doing channeled messages from the Akashic Records. So there are certain topics that either I want to learn about or I feel called to talk about, and I'm going into the Akashic Records, asking questions and trying to get a really good understanding of what some of these concepts are and how they work, especially in the quantum and metaphysical world. So today we're going to talk about what is a Stargate. And I stumbled upon the concept of Stargates because I am really deep into this quantum healing light body activation process. And in that, there is a lot of talk of grid work, different things like that. If you're not familiar with being a grid worker, being a key holder, my next video that's going to come out will actually break down what those are. But if those words resonate with you, you should probably check it out. It'll come out on Thursday. So let's get into it. This is really cool because it's basically like I just wrote down all my questions and then I went to the Akashic Records to ask them, and then I kind of wrote down all the answers. So the first thing I said is like, what even is a Stargate? Like, I had never heard about Stargates until somewhat recently, and I know obviously people have heard about them in like a fictional sense, but like in a real sense, I had not heard about them until maybe a year or two ago. So I was kind of like, what is like the definition of a Stargate? Portal to another dimension or physical world or planet. And I was like, okay, well, why do these even exist? And the answer that came through was interdimensional travel and time travel. Interdimensional travel being maybe you step into the portal and now you're in a different planet. Another option being maybe now you step through the portal and now you're in 1923. So it was showing they can kind of be used either way for interdimensional or for time travel. But this was mind-blowing for me because I was like, wait, so we're acknowledging that not only time travel exists, but also that interdimensional travel exists? Like, that's crazy. And immediately it was like, oh yeah, no, it's only crazy because you guys have been conditioned to believe that it's crazy. This is something where like in past lives prior to us being humans, we would not have batted an eye at, right? So I thought that was just a very interesting take or perspective. So the other thing that came through is most Stargates right now are only being used by interdimensional beings, mostly because humans don't even know they exist, much less how to harness the energy. Because what I was seeing is it's like you could literally be in a Stargate portal, and if your vibration is lower, you won't even know, right? You'll just be existing and nothing will happen. And I was also shown that some of the Stargates right now, about half of them, have been taken over by dark entities, meaning that it's only like the darkness kind of controlling what goes in and out of those Stargates. And so if you were a light worker just trying to experiment or try to find these portals, you wouldn't be able to access them. And so many of the Stargates being shut down or controlled by negative entities is a big part of why grid working and key holders are so essential right now. So I've been doing grid work for a while, and I knew that there was like a purpose for it other than just like sending light and love, but I didn't really fully understand the concept or fully grasp. But basically what I was being shown in the Stargate information is that these Stargates, by their being grid workers and key holders, grid workers are people who raise the vibration of the planet through their energy, sending Reiki into the earth, whatever that looks like. Key holders are people who have specific DNA let's call them settings. They have specific DNA settings that can actually activate or kind of turn on Stargates, or can activate old portals or sacred sites or whatever. And that's, what they came here to do on a soul level. You can do this sometimes consciously, sometimes subconsciously. So like some people are already doing this and they don't know that they're already doing this, because this is very much an innate thing that you're either able to do and drawn to do or not. Not really any in between. But what I was being shown is the grid workers and the light workers are actually the way that the light can kind of take back the Stargates from the dark, thus allowing for dark beings from other planets not to be able to kind of just come in through our Stargates, if that makes sense. The way that it's coming through in like human terms is it's almost like that's our borders, if that makes sense. Like if you think of that as like an airport, and it's like you can go through and you can go to other planets or other galaxies. It's almost like some of those borders are controlled by only negative entities, and so only negative entities are allowed to use them. And so they're being grid holders and key holders. It raises that vibration enough that those negative beings can't operate in that frequency, so then they just kind of see themselves out. So then I asked, like, what happens when we turn on these Stargates? Because it's very clear that some are on right now, but basically nothing is being used or operated or even understood by humans, right? So I was like, what is even happens when we turn on these Stargates? And the answer was that there's actually several things. The first one is that it allows humans to experience the metaphysical and the quantum world. So if you think about a moment of being able to access a portal, whether it be through time travel or interdimensional travel, that's a moment that's going to fundamentally change your life, the way you see things. Like that is a quantum leap moment, right? And so that might be a situation that maybe you've contracted to come into this life and to have that experience. You can come back and tell people, there's more than just Earth. There's more than just us that exists here, right? There's all sorts of reasons why people might have these sorts of experiences here in human form. Another big thing is expanding consciousness. Because if you think about, if people even could agree that yes, things like time travel and interdimensional travel exist, that in itself is expanding consciousness. Then if we're figuring out, okay, how do these things work? That's another level of expanded consciousness, right? And so it's almost like this in itself, just existing and being talked about, helps to raise the vibration, but also being able to understand how things like this work, and also being able to understand that things exist outside of our 3D reality, are huge steps towards that shift of a greater consciousness and greater awakening. Next thing is Stargates help to accelerate ascension. And so what I saw with this is right now, we're in this big period of ascension. A lot of people are moving out of the 3D world into the 5D. They are, moving in out of the matrix into kind of this new earth mentality. They're becoming spiritually awakened. And in that, Stargates can actually help to accelerate ascension, because more positive Stargates being accessible means more positive beings can come and help humans. Because right now there's a lot of beings on Earth that are either helping or hindering humans. And so that's why, the more of the negative Stargates that are open, the fewer of the dark beings that have any control over, the consciousness of the people. And then now we have more positive beings being able to come in, not only interdimensional beings, but also angels and, different beings like that are really here to help humanity, either through awakening or through just generally helping us get through the day. Other big reason that Stargates would really expand consciousness is because it would allow for us as humans to start having more positive interdimensional being experiences, where right now we're being fed this narrative that anything that's extraterrestrial, they're mean, they're evil, they're out to get us, whatever. And do I think that some of that exists? Probably. But do I think that most of the beings that are here are helping us? Yes. And so it's almost like experiences like this are going to increase the amount of people that say, hey, I had an experience, or I had an ET contact and it wasn't bad and they were actually trying to help us, and here's what I learned, right? It's shifting that narrative. And so I think that there's a lot that Stargates can do, but whenever I was trying to learn more about Stargates, I could not find anything online about it. And immediately my guides were like, you're not supposed to find out what other people think about Stargates, you're supposed to like channel in the Akashic Records what Stargates are. So that's what this is, and kind of how it came up. I wrote my most controversial YouTube because I talk a lot about different concepts that some people just may not believe in. So if this resonated with you, amazing. If it did not and it's not for you, perfectly fine as well. But let's talk about other ways to continue to evolve your spiritual consciousness. So if you really are wanting to do things like connect with your higher self, connect with the Akashic Records, I have a 5D membership. You can actually try a week for free. And in here, it's kind of like a library of how to access your Akashic Records, how to do a past life regression, how to connect with your higher self, all these different concepts and teachings and things like that. And so there's a library that exists. You get access to all of that. And then I also do new content every single Monday that's exclusive to that audience. And so I do spiritual circles every single month. And so my spiritual circles is actually what I turn my 5D content into. So basically you're getting some sort of workshop or activation or whatever through that you wouldn't get just through seeing me on YouTube. If you want to work with me one-on-one, I do offer readings for Akashic Records, where we can tap into things like your soul purpose, your past lives, your soul contracts, and then I also offer classes where I teach you how to access your Akashic Records. So if any of those things sound good to you, I offer all those things in person in Greensboro or remotely from anywhere in the world. I will have all of that linked in the show notes, and it is always linked in my bio with my whole YouTube page anytime you need to access that. So thanks so much for tuning in to learn more about Stargates. I will see you on Thursday for our next episode, where we're going to talk about what are key holders and what are grid workers. Okay.